hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hey there, welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life. Wow, look at this picture. I hope you're looking at it. It's a picture of a entrepreneur. That's what I gave it for the prompt. It's an AI picture, but having a great day and having all kinds of ideas. And so it's this crazy picture with a big, background full of just all kinds of ideas and, I don't know, colors and balloons on the wall and just stuff, right? And it's clear from the guy's big grin that he's having a great day and he's having fantastic ideas. And you might wonder, all right, how do I get that? How do I get that? Where my day, my life feels like that great big grin. I know that you have felt like that. There have been days and times when you wake up or sometime during the day and you're just like on fire. And maybe if someone's talking to you, they're like, ooh, I wonder what you've been up to. What are you eating, drinking, smoking? Can I have some? There was that movie, and I don't remember what it was, where somebody in a restaurant was just making all kinds of noises, and someone else said, I'll have what she's having, right? Meaning, that was that exciting. Can I have some too? Let me ask you a question. What does it take to have that kind of energy? What does it take to have that spirit, that aura, that power about you so that someone says, I'll have what he's having or what she's having? What does it take? And I know we can be silly with that. And I think that the episode in the movie had some noises that had to do with, bodily pleasure or whatever. And that was funny at the time. But I'm talking about a little bit, well, I won't even say more seriously, but just the energy of creation, the energy of power and excitement, right? When someone looks at you or you look at someone and you're like, wow, can I be like that? Can I feel like that? Well, clearly I'm going to the place and I'm going to say the answer is yes, of course you can have it. And you know what? I know, and maybe you do, maybe you already affect people like that. People around you say, wow, I want to be like you. I want to have your energy. I want to have your excitement, your clarity, your vision, your power, your leadership, your whatever it is. Maybe you feel like that or people say that to you a lot. Every time that happens to me, and it happens a lot, I think about two things happen. One, I explain something to them. And then two, I think about what today is about. Being intentional and on purpose. Okay, and what I explain to them is that they can have what I'm having. You bet. Whatever you think I got, you can have it. And sometimes I'll ask, well, what do you think it is that I have that you don't have? And they'll say excitement, energy, power. Yesterday, today as I record this, it was yesterday, I was having a call with someone and they couldn't even find the words. I was talking to this woman and she said, every time I talk to you, and I've talked to her 2 or 3 times, she said, there's this presence, there's this energy, and she was looking for words. And I'm not saying that to say, yay, Kellan. What I'm saying is that kind of energy, charisma, clarity, certainty, encouragement, love, creativity, joy is contagious and it's powerful. And people want that. Now, when someone looks at you and they want something you have, it's almost always because they don't think they have it. They feel like they're missing something. You've got something they don't have and they want it. So I want you to think about that for a minute. Let's talk about that. What is it that you have that someone else might look at and sense energetically, maybe from your facial expression, maybe from just the glow around your face or your body? What could that be? Well, it could be just pure energy. Maybe it's excitement for life. Maybe you're radiating such excitement and power that they feel like you've got a secret and they want one. Maybe they feel like you know something they don't. You know, you'll look at somebody and they've got this kind of grin and it's like just a little bit. And you're thinking, I wonder what they know that I don't know. I want it. Can I have one? Well, let's talk about getting that for you, because that state of being is just part of creating your ultimate life. And even after that conversation was done, I got a follow-up message that said some more nice things. And while I appreciate that, this conversation, this little piece is not about the fact that I have that. It's about the fact that you can have it if you don't. And if you do, you can have more of it if you want it. And you can have it any time you want it. And what is the it? The it is a contagious joy, a contagious love, a contagious certainty, a contagious prosperity, a contagious magnetism and leadership. And the result of that is that people want to talk to you. They want to buy from you. They want to learn from you. They want to be with and be by you. That's what happens when you own energetically that kind of certainty, creativity, love, generosity, clarity, power, all of those beautiful words that are way up the ladder of consciousness. Now, you know what the ladder of consciousness is. It's a representative idea that we are, our state of consciousness, whatever we're in, has an energy associated with it. If we're scared, it's low. And think about vibration. Now, the other day I saw a vibration chart, and it was shaped in the shape of a cone. And at the bottom, there was, 0. And this particular chart went from 0 to 700. And I'm not sure why, but let's just go with that, 0 to 700. And at the bottom was, death and fear and shame and guilt and those low vibrations. Well, those low vibrations, they're soul-sucking. They drain your life. Nobody likes to be around that. And they tend to be vacuums. They suck the life and the energy out of a room. You know that. You've been around somebody that's feeling those things. And you either want to get away from that soul-sucking energy, or you might be inclined to try to help. What's wrong? Can I help you? Depends on how you're feeling. If you're not feeling powerful, then how can I help? It's probably not a valuable question, because you don't have any energy or love or creativity or empathy to share, because you're low on the ladder also. On the other hand, if you're way up high, you might have a ton to spare. Today, I said I wanted to talk about being intentional. So let's talk about both of those words. Being is simply that. It is the state of energy that you are in at the moment. Who are you? What are you being, or who are you being? Now, you could say, I am being a musician. Okay, that's a label. I'm being a lawyer. I'm being an accountant. I'm being a doctor. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about your energy, your spiritual state of consciousness. I'm being joyful. Okay, I'm being creative. I'm being loving. I'm being in integrity. I'm being thoughtful. I'm being compassionate. All of those words carry with them a connotation of an emotional state. And as soon as I say one of those words, an image appears in your mind about what that would look like. Someone's compassionate. You have a thought based on your own examples of what that would look like, a compassionate, caring person asking questions and caring about the answers and seeing, what you can do to lift or love someone or help them with their circumstance or burdens or whatever. So whatever that state of consciousness is, it carries an energy with it. Now, that cone I was talking about, when it went up to, 700, the top, that was pure love and pure consciousness and enlightenment and joy, and all those kinds of words are up there between 500 and 700. So the important part about this being intentional is that you get to choose where you are on that ladder from 0 to 700. From shame, guilt, death, fear, rage, to creativity, love, transcendence, beauty, enlightenment, connectedness, oneness. You get to choose. And that's the first revelation sometimes, is because we often think where we are on that ladder depends on something else. I just got a tax bill in the mail. Oh, I'm frustrated. I'm scared. I'm uptight. I'm angry because I got the tax bill. No, you create your own state. You decide where you are from 0 to 700 all the time, every moment. Now, you can decide unconsciously, and when you're unconscious of that, that means that you're allowing, because you choose to, those externalities, someone else's opinion, someone else's judgment of you or a thing, or the politics that are going on around you, or the economy, or a friend, or your lover, or whatever has said or done something, and you have abdicated control, and so you allow those vibrations or those energetic states to take you over and push you around on that ladder. It was something you didn't want, so it pushes you down. It was something exciting, it lifts you up. And so you've abdicated control. So the first thing about being intentional is to understand that 100% of the time, only always, 100%, no exceptions, ever, you decide where you are on that ladder of consciousness. Now, why does that matter? Well, maybe it doesn't matter to you. It matters a lot to me. And here's why. When I abdicated control, and I've done that often, not anymore, but I used to do that. I lived believing and acting as if all those external things pushed me around up and down that ladder. And I reacted and responded based on those externalities. And when things didn't go like I wanted, then I retreated to some distraction, television, and worse, drugs or other things to numb the feeling of being down on the ladder. So things were around me that weren't like I wanted. And so it pushed me down. I allowed it to stomp on my heart and my spirit. And then recognizing the negative energy of being down on the ladder, I self-medicated with one thing or another, shopping or, all the way to serious, drugs and other stupid stuff, because I couldn't stand the feeling. Loneliness, depression, and I didn't do anything else about it. So my reaction was to numb the pain, the feeling. But I didn't understand yet that I can do other things because I don't have to let those things push me around on the ladder. So I want you to think about that. You don't have to let anybody push you up and down that ladder. The very same things happen now. Someone says something negative or unkind or blames me for something, and it doesn't affect me at all. Instead, how I actually feel, and this is not exaggerated or anything, I feel compassion and I feel love. And the feeling that wells up in my heart is, wow, I am so sorry that they are struggling like that in a way that makes them need to lash, bash, crash, and all the rest. Now, getting to that place where that's really what I feel has been a process, but it is a liberating and joyful process. Think about that. It's liberating and joyful. Here's why. It's liberating because nobody pushes me around on the ladder anymore. It's joyful because then I am capable to be in a state of love, enlightenment, lifting, blessing, and joy all the time. Now, when I say that to some people, they think, yeah, that's not true. You can't possibly mean that. And the answer is, of course I mean it. And of course you can. Everything that I say, I'm saying from my own experience, but it applies to you because there's absolutely nothing that I can do that you can't do. Absolutely nothing that I can do that you can't do about this kind of emotional mastery. You have tons of skills I don't have. Maybe you're a great tennis player. I played tennis in high school, but I haven't played much since then. So if you're very good, I'm sure you'd wipe the court with me. And there's things I do well. I play the piano well, right? Maybe you play another instrument, or maybe you sing, or maybe you don't do music. So we share all those things in terms of different sets of skills. But the commonality is that we both have the ability to master our emotions and not be mastered by them. So that's the first thing about being. Being is it is the state of our emotional consciousness. And so being something, right? And you can just say, I'm being, okay, and that would mean, I don't know, being present, just being here in this moment. Now, that's what I would feel like when I'm in meditation. I'm simply being here. Often when I'm in meditation, I'll be thinking or focusing on breathing and just exploring the benefits and the joys of breathing in the body. Breathing is so powerful, and we will do and have done some other episodes talking about just being present, meaning in this moment here now with whatever's going on around you. Anyway, so today is being intentional. So we've talked about being, and I want to go to intentional. What does that mean? Well, good intentions, bad intentions, we've heard that. Good intentions means I'm trying to do something that, to the best of my knowledge or judgment, would be beneficial, happy, joyful, uplifting, right? Bad intentions means I'm just looking out for me. I want to make me happy, and I couldn't care less what it does to you or other people around you or me. Now, those might be bad intentions. You can define it like you want. Intentional means you and I were paying attention and we're acting with direction and purpose. Okay, now if I'm playing a game of chess, I'm being intentional, I'm focused, I'm trying to make good moves, and I'm trying to win the game. Usually, maybe I'm trying to teach somebody, but most of the time you'd be trying to win the game. Pickleball, chess, whatever, right? Or if I'm doing marketing reach outs, I'm a coach, and so I work with a lot of businesses, and we talk about marketing, right? How do you find the right people who might need your product or service? How do you language to them? How do you, get to know them? How do you explain what you do in a way that they might see the value and make a purchase from you? Another thing, so for example, I had a conversation just earlier today with a woman who's in one of my groups, and she has a conversation that she needs to have, and she perceives it as a difficult conversation. Not that there's anger or animosity, but difficult in terms of worried about the outcome. Maybe there'll be a negative response, et cetera. And so the question she had is, how do I approach that sort of thing? And as I listened to the situation and the question, my intention, being intentional, is what do I know in my data bank or my experience bank that would perhaps be good advice or a good suggestion for her to do this thing? So I was being very intentional about the answer. I wasn't being glib or quick or brushing it off. I was being very intentional and focused because my intention was to get her the best possible outcome in this conversation that she was worried about having. Now, if you want to create your life intentionally, so let's tie all this into creating your ultimate life. And remember, my words are purpose, prosperity, and joy. Purpose meaning you're about something in your life. Prosperity means you have an abundance of cash, of joy, of relationships, of fun, and joy is the state of ultimate happiness, right? So happy is one thing, and to me that's a medium word. Joy, deep, profound joy, that's, the top rung, for me at least. You might have a different word, but experiencing deep joy, that's the top. That's it. Ooh, yeah. All right. So how do you do that? How do you create intentionally? How do you be on that ladder of consciousness something that allows you to intentionally create purpose, prosperity, and joy? Well, the first thing is going to be really obvious. I got to have a vision, a picture in my mind of what that looks like. And I do. And I am continually amazed at the fact that most people don't. What do you want? People can't answer that question. So if you can't answer the question, what do you really want in the deepest way, how can you be intentional about creating it? We can't. I want more money. I want my business to be more successful. I want my love life to be better. I want my partner to love me more. I want to get over this bad habit. I want to be more in shape. I want to lose 10 pounds, 50 pounds. That's what I want. If I don't have a clear picture of what that looks like, then I can't be intentional. So it starts with a clear vision. Now, I'll give you an example. Much earlier, 30 years ago, when I was in my late 30s, I'm 69 right now, I'll be 70 this year. When I was in my late 30s, I was quite a bit overweight. 38 years old, I was, 80 pounds, something overweight. And I had young kids at the time, and I decided I don't want to be the fat dad that can't play with his kids. So one way to do that would be to white knuckle a diet and exercise program. And we know how white knuckling works. It doesn't work very well. Instead, I was very intentional. And I had a picture. I am the in shape cardiovascular powerhouse that can jump around on the lawn and play football and in the street and, play sports, whatever the kids were playing, girls or boys. And I can do that with them. I can see that. So what did I do? Because I had a very intentional focus. I joined a local martial arts school, and I'd done that before in my life. And so it was something I really loved, and it was close by. I stuck with it powerfully and focused on that intention to be that person. And took me about a year, but I ended up losing 90 pounds, which is a little bit more than I needed, but it's okay. I was fabulously in shape. I could do tons of push-ups, and I remember being proud of the fact that I lived in Phoenix at the time, and when it was 108 or 110 outside, I used to come home at 4 o'clock because I had an early shift. I worked from 7 to 3, and I'd come home and I could run 5 miles in the blistering heat at 110 degrees in the sun and do it in not bad time. I don't remember exactly the times, but I could do that, and I could do it any time. So I thought, wow, I've arrived. But it was because I was very intentional about the process. I had that vision in my mind of what I was going to look like and feel like. And so it wasn't about, okay, I got to do a certain number of exercises. It was about holding that vision and living on purpose. Now, there's an interesting way to think about the words on purpose. Did you do that on purpose? Was it an accident? That's one way we use that. Was that an intentional behavior? I want you to think about it slightly different. Are you living your life on purpose? Meaning you are on the purpose you have, and that's the purpose, prosperity, and joy. As you know, my purpose, on purpose for me, is to help you capture, recognize, and live into your own divine power. Create your own vision of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Mine is this year to help 300 million people to wake up to your divinity. You're a child of God. To wake up to that truth, allow it to be active within you so that you access your own gifts and talents and you fully express yourself. How many people do you know that are living at half staff, half mast, half baked? Most. I call that an addiction to mediocrity. Are you addicted to mediocrity? I know what that's like because I lived that, and I certainly wasn't living on purpose. I was sort of Groundhog Day, living the same day and the same week over and over again because I wasn't on purpose, because I didn't have a vision. My vision was just to get through life, make good money, make a little more money, have fun, had some kids, and I didn't have a real vision. So it starts with a vision, and I challenge you right now, today, if you're driving or something and you can't do it right now, okay, go home and write down a detailed, clear vision. I have written exactly what I believe will happen if I reach 300 million people with the message, and I land in their ears with the message of your own divinity. And it doesn't have to be my message. As you know, I frequently have guests here on the show that are sharing their message. The last one right before this was a guest, and I'm looking in my book here. Shanti was the last episode, and she works with underrepresented people, and she's a sweet soul that has a lifetime of experience that has called her to help people that feel unheard and unrepresented, underrepresented, afraid of who they are, that people might judge them and stuff, to encourage them to live their lives fully, powerfully and capably. Well, that's another version of what I'm doing. She's targeting a particular group of people. And I guess I am too, because I don't want to work with people that are married to their excuses and are going to argue for their limitations. My message is for everyone, but the ones I focus on are the high performers, the ones that have that yearning. I want to be at the top of my game, whether it's cash or whether it's impact or whether it's value that I provide. I love that energy, the energy of determination and focus and discipline. That's where I thrive. And those people, there's no limit. And if that's you, we should talk. If you're one of those folks who say, I'm going to be the best version of myself, adding good to the world and creating everything I can with my gifts and talents, and I'm being you for a minute, I'd love to talk. I'd love to talk, especially because we live in a world that doesn't reward that very well. You feel like round pegs in square holes or square pegs in round holes. You don't fit. You get laughed at. You get, made fun of sometimes because you're a dreamer. You're one of the ones Steve Jobs calls the crazy ones, the ones who think they can change the world. Well, you can. And if you live on purpose, your focus is intentional, you absolutely can change the world, and you should. We should. And so if you want to work in an environment of support and high-powered coaching, let's talk. On the other hand, if you are already doing that, and you'd like a platform to spread your message, like the one I just talked about, let's talk again, because I love sharing that. I love meeting people just like you who have that yearning in your heart to live on purpose, to create your own massive impact in the world. Now, there's an exercise that I take people through, and I want to share it with you because I'd like you to do it. And that's this. Visionaries like you, like me, we often think, I can help people do this or that, get rid of their limitations or get past blocks and barriers, love themselves more, sing their song they came to sing. My last guest, Shanti, and I talked about, not dying with your music inside, especially if you have lived in a way where you feel marginalized. Not dying with your music inside. So here's what I'd like you to imagine. Let's say you win. Like you have the impact you want. For me, it's imagining that 300 million people have heard my message or the message of my guests and have been encouraged to take heart, to move up that ladder of consciousness, to live more in love and creativity and magnifying their gifts and talents and creating big impact and big cash. I picture the 300 million having done that. Now, 300 million is a lot of people. There's about, 340 or 50 in the U.S., and I live in Canada. There's 40 or something. So we're at about 380 or 90 million. Let's just round it up to 400, shall we? There's 400 million people, plus or minus, in North America. 300 million would be 3 out of 4. And if you add in, I do all my stuff in English, Australia, New Zealand, pieces of Europe. If you add in all that, maybe there's 600 million. 300 million would be half of that. And I know the official language in India is English because there's so many dialects. Somebody who lives there told me that. But anyway, can you imagine with me what it would be like if 300 million people woke up and instead of living as a victim or being used by somebody else's vision, if they stood up and took control of their lives, searched for their own gifts, and then made a commitment to live in service and create value with their gifts and talents, with love, forgiveness, kindness, certainty, power, raise their voices and do that. Can you imagine? It would change the world. 300 million, that's, 10 times that is 3 billion, 8 billion. So it's only 1 out of 30. And I probably did the math wrong. But it isn't very many, but that would absolutely change the world. So when I think about my vision, I see 300 million people waking up to their own sovereignty, divinity, capability, and possibility. So what is your vision? And how I ask you to visualize this is, what would the world look like if you got done what you're trying to get done? Be specific. So for me, someone who chooses sovereignty over their own life, they recognize their worth, their divinity, their purpose, their power, their possibility, how they own their life and sovereignty. If you listening right now, if you woke up and you own that powerfully and every day, you would have a massive impact on every person around you. And depending on what you chose to do with it, a large audience. You'd have a massive impact. If I reach 300, not if, as I reach 300 million, that'll be a global impact. And it will be an explosion of kindness, an explosion of honesty, an explosion of integrity, of people dealing fairly and honestly with each other, of creating massive value, of an explosion of arts and crafts and service. And you can imagine what would happen. So I want to know what your vision is. If it was fully realized, what would it be like? Do that exercise. Answer the question and write it down. What does the world look like if the thing you desire to bring to the world happened, if you win? If you're over the goal line, what does that look like? What does the world look like after you've finished? Okay. Now, the reason that it's so much fun to start there is because all of us have to start right where we are. And we have to first start with ourselves. So whatever you teach, whatever you preach, whatever you sell, whatever you do to add good to the world, you and I, we got to be a product of that. We got to be a model, back to that thing we were talking about earlier. So people see you and they say, I want what he's having or she's having. They see and experience your energy, your truth, your love, your power, and they're like, I want some of that. We got to be a product of the product. Now, assuming we do that, that means you are living on purpose because it's obvious in your energy and power that you're there. Now, what I know from my own experience is when you live fully on purpose, then prosperity comes to you. People want to be around you. They want to buy from you. Whatever your line of work is, because you are a person of honor, integrity, trustworthy, energy. You're lifting and blessing people because that's what you've chosen to do and be, no matter what the dealings of your trade are. And so I want you to explore. Are you a product of the product, living on purpose? And are you every single day, today, right now, shining in such a way that you're infecting the air around you with your joy, with your purpose, with your love, with your service, with lifting and blessing? Are you doing that? Most of us live, maybe we get there sometimes, some days, we hit a high, woo, and then we sag. Make a commitment, 2% more time today. I am on purpose. And tomorrow, add a percent to that. And a percent to that. If you did 5% more on purpose, on your purpose, in a week, do you realize in 20 weeks, which is 5 months, you would be 100% on purpose? You'd be so attractive and powerful, people would line up to be by you and to buy from you and to hear you speak, because they would feel the conviction, the love, the integrity, and the joy that comes from your very being and your voice. Now, that all may sound like highfalutin woo-woo, but it's absolute eternal truth. You can have that if you're willing to live on purpose, to do the work that it takes to get there, to notice when you're not, and to change. Now, I have a book that will help you do that if you want it. It's called Living with Purpose and Power. My whole purpose is to help people do that and discover and live in that joy. That's the reason I do what I do, this show and my coaching business and everything else. And what I know is no matter where you are and no matter what has come before, you can have that. And you can, right now, create and live your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe, share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your